So this is week 9. Today we will solve the tutorial number 8 and we will discuss about the things whatever is comes in the tutorial. So our tutorial begins with the question number 1. The question number 1 is given that for rectangular aperture, comma, the far field intensity distribution is given y. Distribution is given by our options are iy comma z equal to I0 sin k a y divided by 2r divided by k a y by 2r and sin k b z by 2r divided by k v z divided by 2r. Okay, the second option is the similar option. Similar option with given that here both the term comes cos. Similarly, the third option is with this is cos and this is sine, and option D is none of these. So let's discuss about the rectangular aperture of the far field. So as you know that rectangular aperture, let's consider the rectangular aperture with width a and height v, that is like this is a and this is v. Okay, then if we describe using the Fraunhofer diffraction, which is based on Fourier transform, then the aperture function, if we consider the far field distribution of intensity, this is something like I, which is function of theta x and theta y, will be equal to I0 and sine beta divided by beta and sine alpha divided by alpha. Okay, so this is of square, and here is also in option there are square are given, which we forgot. So here this beta is given by pi by a by lambda into sine theta x, and alpha is given by pi by a by lambda into sine theta y. So if you consider this sine theta x, this will be your kx, then it will be k into sine theta. So if you consider this theta x, then this is kx divided by k. Okay, so if we consider this kx into k, then it will be pi a k divided by lambda. Okay, and similarly this, so this is very much similar to our first option, right? So this is our answer. So our right answer is option A. Okay, so this sinc squared function describe how the intensity varies with angle, creation a diffraction pattern consisting of a central maximum and side lobes. So the width and the height of the aperture dictate the spacing of the diffraction fringes. Okay, so now we go for the question number 2. So our question number 2 is a thin vertical rectangular rectangular opening will produce a fringe pattern in, so our options are, one is horizontal direction, option B is vertical direction, and option C is horizontal and vertical direction, and option D is none of these. Okay, so how to explain this type of thing? So as you know that a thin vertical rectangular opening will produce this diffraction pattern primarily the horizontal direction. Okay, horizontal direction, and this effect can be understood through the principle of Fraunhofer diffraction. Okay, so all you know the Fraunhofer diffraction, right? So this is based on Fraunhofer diffraction. The answer is horizontal direction. How can we how have to remember all these points? So if we remember like vertical aperture shape, if we consider the vertical aperture shape, so a thin vertical aperture means the aperture is much taller than its width, right? So it will be like that. Okay, so let's assume that the width, this A is very small than B, so A is less than B. Okay, so since this diffraction is results of light bending around the edges of aperture, the diffraction pattern depends on the dimension of the aperture relative to the wavelength of light. Okay, so it will bend more in A than B, right, compared to B. So we can say it will be like this. Okay, so and we can also compare it as a this pattern like this. Since alpha is A is very small than B, then alpha is very small, so this will be 1. So function will be only this one. So this is in horizontal direction. Okay, like for example I told you, if you not understood like that, so I0 and sine beta upon beta square and sine alpha upon alpha whole square. Here alpha is pi a by lambda into theta by, and beta is pi a by lambda into theta x. So as I am telling that a is very less, so if a is less, this alpha tends to 0 compared to beta. Okay, so this term goes to 1 and it will be like I naught sine beta upon beta square. So this will tends only in theta x direction. Okay, so if you consider this theta x, so it will be in horizontal direction. If the function is in vertical, if slit is vertical, then it will be horizontal direction. So now question number 3 is, for circular aperture comma far field intensity distribution is given by so options are, one is I theta, that is equal to I0 sine ka sine theta upon ka sine theta का whole square. Second option is I theta is equal to I0 cos ka sine theta divided by ka sine theta. And third option is tan ka sine theta by ka sine theta. And option D is I theta equal to I0 2j1 ka sine theta upon ka sine theta का whole square, where j1 is Bessel function. So which one is the right answer according to you? Let's discuss about. So if we consider this circular aperture, then this far field intensity distribution is described by the array pattern, you know, right? So this is the array pattern, or in 2 dimension we can like this. This is the array pattern. If this is intensity and this is some space x or y, or in 2 dimensional it is like this. Okay, so the pattern results from the diffraction of light through this circular aperture, and the intensity distribution forms the concentric bright and dark rings around the center bright spot known as the array disk, right? So this far field distribution IR from this aperture as a function of radial distance, maybe sir has described it to you. This is equal to I naught 2j1 kr sine theta y kr sin theta का whole square, where this I0 is the maximum intensity and J1 is first order Bessel function, and k is equal to 2 pi by lambda, and lambda is where the wavelength of the light, and r is the radius of aperture, right? And theta is the diffraction angle. So if this central bright spot is airy disk, then the radius r1 of the first ring around our disk is equal to 1.22 lambda capital Y capital D, where this D is the diameter of circular aperture, right? So concentric rings are like this, and so we can say that for this circular aperture, this far field intensity distribution is the airy pattern. Okay, so next question number 4. So question number 4 is given that a circular aperture of radius 0.05 centimeter is placed in front of a convex lens of focal length 30 centimeter and is illuminated by a parallel beam of light wavelength 5 into 10 to power minus 5 centimeter. So the radius of the fringe we have to calculate, right? So how will we calculate? As I told you in the above question, okay, the options first I will write is 183 micrometer and 210 micrometer B, and option C is 145 micrometer, and option D is 283 micrometer. So how we can calculate this? As you know, this R is equal to 1.22 lambda by capital D. So there is 122 into 5 into 10 to the power minus 5 centimeter, and D is given here is 2 into R. So R is given to us is 2 into 0.05 centimeter. So sorry, this is also F is the focal length of this. So this F is given 30 centimeter. So 1 centimeter is cut down by 1 centimeter. This is 15, and if we consider this with 20, 5 3s are 15 and 300, and it is again 1500 into 1.22 into 10 to the power minus 5 in centimeter. So it will be 15 to the 30, 15 to the 30 and 3 33, 15 1 15 and 3 is 18 into 10 to the power minus 5. So it is 183 into 10 to power minus 4 centimeter is equal to 183 micrometer. Okay, so our first answer is the right answer. So what next? The question number 5. It is given that according to Rayleigh criteria, to just resolve image of 2-point source comma 1 requires, our option 1 is the center of one airy disk pattern should falls on the center of the airy pattern of the other point source. The option V is the center of one airy disk pattern should fall on the first minima of airy pattern of other point source. And option C is the center of airy pattern should fall on the second minimum of the airy pattern of the other point source. And option D is the center of one airy disk should fall on first maxima of the airy pattern of other point source. So as you know the definition of Rayleigh criterion, so this Rayleigh criterion provides us criteria for resolving two closely spaced objects, particularly with when viewed through an optical system like a telescope, microscope or camera. According to the Rayleigh criterion, these 2 point source are considered just resolved, right? So these two is just resolved. So this is given by Rayleigh criterion. So Rayleigh criterion formula is this theta minimum should be 1.22 into lambda by d. Okay, so where this theta minimum is the minimum angular separation between the two objects for them to be resolved, and lambda is the wavelength of the light being used, and this capital D is the aperture diameter of the optical system, for example telescope or microscope. So this it means that this center of this one array disk pattern should fall on the first minima of this array pattern of other point source. So this is our Rayleigh criterion statement from which we can resolve two closely spaced objects, right? So our next question is question 6. So question 6 is the resolving power of an image forming system is given by one is 1 by 1.22 f t by lambda. Option B is 1 by 1.22 f lambda by d, and option C is 2.44 lambda f by d, and option D is 2.44 df by lambda. So as we know, this resolving power of an image forming system such as microscope or telescope or a camera refers to ability to distinguish two closely spaced objects as separate. So it measures of the system's capability to reveal fine details in the image. So the higher the resolving power, the finer the detail, and that can be resolved. So this for the linear resolution. So this resolution is 1 by d minimum, right? Or for angular resolution, I can say this theta minimum, whatever theta minimum is. So if we consider these formula, so we know this theta minimum is 1.22 f lambda by d. Okay, so our right answer is answer number V. Okay, so if we want to increase or decrease, then lambda, d and f are the factors which affects the resolving power. Next, question number 7. Question number 7 is given the Keating equation for oblique incidence is. So we know that A is A sine theta m minus sine theta I equal to m plus half lambda, and B is A sine theta m minus sine theta I equal to m lambda, and C is given a sine theta m minus sine theta I equal to lambda by 4. Option D is none of above. So this grating equation of oblique incidence, how can you calculate? So let's discuss about this. Grating equation of this oblique incidence describes how the light of a certain wavelength is diffracted when it hits a diffraction grating at an angle. Okay, so it is a generalization of normal incidence grating equation, taking into account both the angle of incidence and the angle of diffraction. So grating equation of this given by this m lambda equal to d sine theta m minus sine theta I, where this m is the diffraction order and I means the incidence, that is theta I means incidence angle, and theta m is the angle of diffraction, and lambda is the wavelength, and d is the grating spacing, that is distance between the adjacent slit on the grating. So oblique incidence means that the incident light hits grating at an angle theta I, means if this is the grating, so this is the normal incidence and this is the angle theta I, which is we called oblique angle. So for a special case, if we consider this incident angle is 0, then this m lambda will be d sine theta m. Okay, so this is the usual formula for the grating equation for this normal incidence which we consider. And this, if we consider this first order diffraction, then m equal to 1. The first order diffracted light occurs at m equal to 1, means this d sine theta is equal to lambda. And the application of this one is for designing a device like a spectrometer where light is dispersed into its constituent wavelengths. It's also used in optical grating, diffraction experiment, and analyzing the spectra of light source. Okay, so now this question number 8. Question number 8 is given that in a diffraction grating, experiment, the angular separation between two different frequency frequency lines increases as our options are the order of fringes increase, option B is the order of fringes decrease, option C does not depends on the fringe order, and option D is none of these. So as we know, in this diffraction grating experiment, this angular separation between two different frequency means of the light results the diffraction and dispersion property, right, of the grating. So the angular position of diffracted light wave depends on its wavelength, and thus different wavelength will be separated at different angle. Okay, so this, if we write the grating equation, this m lambda is equal to d sine theta, then where this m is the diffraction order, again this d is the grating spacing and theta is the angle of diffraction. So this angular separation between two wavelengths will be delta theta is equal to theta 2 minus theta 1. So if we consider sine theta 1 and sine theta 2, then these are equivalent to lambda by d and 2 lambda by, yeah, or we can say m lambda 1 by d and m lambda 2 by d. Thus this angular separation delta theta will be sine inverse m lambda 2 by d and minus sine inverse m lambda 1 by d. So this equation shows that how this angle at which different angle wavelengths are diffracted depends on the grating spacing d and the wavelength lambda 1 and lambda 2. So if we approximate for this small angular separation, then this delta theta will be m delta lambda by d cos theta. It means the wavelength difference delta lambda will increase, then this angular separation of fringe order will also increase. So our option A is the right answer. So our question number 9 is the Fresnel approximation. The Fresnel approximation is valid for option A when Z is greater than pi by 4 lambda x square plus y square का whole square to power q. Option B is when Z is greater than pi by 4 lambda x square plus pi square का whole square power 1 by 3. And option C is Z greater than pi by 4 lambda x square plus y square का whole square. And option D is when Z is greater than pi by 4 lambda x square plus y square of whole square to power half. So what is the Fresnel approximation? So the Fresnel approximation is a simplification used in wave optics, particularly in the context of the analyzing wave propagation, diffraction and interference phenomena. So it is particularly useful when dealing with wave fronts and the effects of apertures and obstacles on wave propagation. So the Fresnel approximation is valid under a specific condition, which includes the geometrical scale, curvature of wavefront and diffraction region. Okay, so how it depends on geometrical scale. If we have large distance relative to the wavelength, then this r1 by lambda should be greater than 1, means this z and r is x square plus y square का under root. So and some other factor, as I told you, curvature of wavefront and all these things are coming. So including all these type of validation, so this Fresnel approximation is valid only for this pi by 4 lambda x square plus pi square का whole square to power 1 by 3. Okay, so our option B is the correct answer. So now we are coming to the last question. So question number 10. So question number 10 is expression of field in Fraunhofer diffraction pattern is given by let's start with the derivation or just little bit explanation. So you know this, in the Fraunhofer diffraction, the expression for the electric field in far field diffraction pattern can be derived using the principle of wave optics. So the Fraunhofer diffraction occurs when this light passes through an aperture and the observation is made at large distance from the aperture. So where the wavefront can be approximated as planar. So this general expression for electric field in Fraunhofer diffraction is this Ex comma y is equal to 1 by lambda z and double integration ax dash y dash e to the power minus I 2 pi by lambda z x dash plus y dash dx dash and dy dash. Okay, so if we go to the term by term, it means x comma Ex comma y is the electric field amplitude, okay, at some point x comma y, and ax dash y dash, it is the aperture function. It is the aperture function that describes the amplitude and phase of wavefront. ठीक है, wavefront information, and each point x dash and y dash of the aperture, and lambda is the wavelength, and lambda is the wavelength of incident light. Okay, and z is the distance from the aperture to the observation point. Z is the, and now if we explain this term, so this ax comma y, this is the aperture function. Okay, so the function represents how the amplitude and phase of light vary across the aperture. Okay, so it is often a rectangular, circular or more complex shape depending on the aperture being analyzed. So for a uniform aperture, ax dash and y dash can be taken as a constant value across the aperture area, and this exponential term, this represents the phase difference between the light wave emanating from different points on the aperture and arriving at the observation point. And this argument of the exponential accounts for the propagation of wave in the far field. And this integration, this double integration sum contributes from all points within the aperture to give the total electric field at observation point, if effectively incorporates the effect of the aperture shape and size on resulting diffraction pattern. So if we go for that intensity, then this I is just amplitude square. so we can solve it. So conclusively we can say this electric field in Fraunhofer diffraction pattern can be expressed using the integral of the aperture function, capturing the contribution of all points on the aperture. The resulting intensity distribution describes how light is distributed in the far field due to diffraction, allowing us to analyze various aperture shapes and their corresponding diffraction patterns. Okay, so this is for the week 8, sorry, week 9, and this is, now we will meet in the next session and next with next tutorial, right? Thank you.